Film Club.
Thank you very much for joining us for another episode of Film Club. I'm one of your hosts, Andy Harrison, and with me, as always, it's Andy Donaldson.
It is indeed.
Every week in Film Club, we invite you along to watch a film with us, and this week you are invited to watch The Deer Hunter.
The Deer Hunter. Three friends who originally steelworkers get drafted into the Vietnam War and go through quite a bit of turmoil mentally and in some cases physically, and then come back and try and adjust to life.
And The Deer Hunter is directed by Michael Cimino. I've heard it pronounced Michael Cimino. I don't know which way it's meant to be. You can shout us in the comments for either if you want. In terms of war films, for me, I absolutely adore this. This is up there for me. This is one of my favourite war films. Of the two of us, I am not like the war film dude. So I am very interested to hear how you took to this.
I feel like only a third of this film is surrounded with war, and the rest of it is dealing with the pre to war, like just getting to know the characters, and a third of it is dealing with the post of war.
Yep.
So I was quite surprised to hear that. I felt it was very, 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 I think it was done before, very similar to Apocalypse Now, which didn't obviously resonate with me as much as it did you. But, however, I did really enjoy this. It's a long film, though. It is 3 hours long. It's quite rough to watch. It is a good film, but Christ, it has an effect on you. You know what I mean?
If I'm correct as well, I got a text from you earlier about Andy never told me this was 3 hours long, so you've just come off of watching this, haven't you?
Yeah, so I started at 2. It's now 5. Well, it's past 5, but yeah, literally come straight out of it, finished it. And I probably like it's still like dawning on me and I'm resting on it thinking, Christ, that was a tough watch.
So The Deer Hunter and Apocalypse Now are they're a year apart from each other basically. This is 1978. Apocalypse Now is 1979. So obviously Apocalypse Now was in production, similar sort of time to this. They are both part of the very first wave of Hollywood films that just They threw a brick at the idea of the Vietnam War. They're the ones that, rather than glorifying it, they took a hammer to it and started to criticize the idea of the Vietnam War and the sort of the repercussions that it brought with it. For me, The Deer Hunter really works because of its structure. So you're right, it's totally long. It's really like absurdly long. It's like 3 hours long. But I kind of love it for that, because what that 3 hours affords it is the ability to have sections which are thoroughly engrossed in their home lives. Like you can watch the first third of this film where it's all about the bringing together of its lead characters. It's all about the lives of De Niro, and it's all about the lives of Christopher Walken. And it gets to let you exist in their world for a little bit. You see this like incredible wedding that's going on. You get to see them on the hunting trip. You get to see basically what's at stake for these characters when they go to war. And then you also get to see them, prior to having sort of the psychological trauma that comes with them getting over there. And once you get over there, and once you have the impact of the Vietnam War on them, it's quite short and succinct. You get in, you get some of the damages of war that you've seen in other films. And what Cimino does is he uses that as a shorthand. He kind of gets in, he gives you the understanding of where his characters are at. He gives you the big traumatic event, which is obviously that iconic scene of Russian roulette with the Viet Cong. And then he pulls you back out before, like a normal film, I guess, would kind of end somewhere around there. Your standard film would end with them getting taken out of Vietnam and them getting to go home. And maybe you'd have a scene at home to sort of, show that there is some trauma there. But instead, what I love about The Deer Hunter is that it lets all that stuff sit with them. It's not clean. It's not tidy. It doesn't sell like this sort of Hollywoodized, succinct narrative where these people go home and there is some sort of happiness, or even there isn't even like a clean, this like sad sort of traumatic ending. Instead, it's this full of horrible mixtures and greys, and De Niro goes home, but also he's racked with guilt. He's got like a bit of survivor's guilt going on. He's also kind of stealing Christopher Walken's life in some ways, and he doesn't mean to, but it's kind of happening. And then he's got this guilt for what's going on with Christopher Walken and Stevie, who was played by, is it John? Yeah, played by John Savage. He's sort of like trying to deal with this idea that he no longer feels like he should be here. He should no longer feels like he should be at home. He no longer feels like he should be in Vietnam. It's sort of this like decompressed version of, I guess, what lots of other films give you a cliff notes of.
Yeah, I feel like their whole phase, their whole time in Vietnam is a metaphorical mirror of what life was like before. The really cool scene at the start where they go to the bar, they have loads of drinks. He's about to Stevie's about to get married. They have the post party, like the reception in the same bar, and it's all like light. And then the last scene is, I wrote it down a note. I said it goes from a place of joy and happiness, so it comes to a place of such like despair and dismay because it's the wake of Nick's funeral. And it's like it's interesting to see that particular that set, that stage, that place that brings so much joy. And again, a fantastic scene is where they go out drinking and they come back and he's playing piano. And I can't for the life of me, sorry about this, remember if it's post or pre-war, but either way, like
that's pre-war. And the reason that sticks in my head is because that piano and the way they react to that piano, it feels like this final moment of, I guess, pure happiness, but it's been punctuated by this like impending reality, because what they've been doing is they've been spending that time going off and hunting and then coming back and getting drunk and hanging out at the bar, and like it's that final hurrah before being shipped out. Yeah,
it's tough to watch, mate. It's I feel like you can see that, like, again, going that metaphorical mirror, you can see it within the characters as well. The one person that's like kind of stayed present throughout is De Niro's character. You can kind of see he's like the leader character. He's coming through. Interestingly, the first scene you see in Vietnam, it's him that he's quite like hot-headed with his gun and everything like that. He's almost like he's got no morals. Then he comes back and obviously has a lot more. You're saying about him representing Nick's life and everything like that. It's not just the characters that come back. The whole town feels that way. Like,
yeah,
it's mad. What better example? And Meryl Streep's character, Linda. And she's she has an abusive father and all this, but then she moves into the trailer, comes back, and there's something not right. Even that final scene, she's saying "Oh, cheers," and she's singing. It's just not right. She's not there, and, because Nick's not there, and other factors as well.
Stevie's wife as well. The fact that
oh yeah, of course, what a great example.
Goes to see her, and she's just destroyed. Like,
yeah,
in a similar way that the war would destroy many families across the world. The husband came back in a different state, both physically and psychologically.
Exactly. Jumping back what you said about the piano scene, I do have to give a huge shout out. This score is sublime.
Oh my god, it's incredible.
We were laughing last week, and I said, "Oh, the score didn't really affect me." It's one of the things I could focus on the most. It's up there with like some of the best scoring ever. It's by a guy called Stanley Myers. I had a little quite a funny moment. So at the wedding, I think it's a wedding, and they have this song that keeps going on. I was thinking, oh Christ, what's that? I recognise that. And I thought it was, remember when we used to play the Amiga and it was a Settlers game? So I ended up listening to Settlers music. I thought it was that. Turns out it's the Tetris music from the Just Dance that we used to do. Anyway, it's the same like kind of beat and tune. So that was a nice little nod. I was like, oh, that's cool. Not that it was intentional. Yeah, throughout the whole film, is incredible.
The main theme for the film is, I can only describe it as heartbreaking.
It is. That's it though. That's what this film is. It's heartbreaking. It's sombre. It's I was encapsulated. I was in there. I was in awe of just how incredible it was and how like thoughtful yet heartbreaking it was. Incredible score.
It's the fact that he knows what to do with that music as well. He's not just constantly blasting at you. Instead, when he needs to back off, he backs off. Now, the film's introduced like a couple of pieces of iconography, the most of which, the predominant one, is the imagery of Russian roulette. That scene, the first scene with Russian roulette, is like, it's one of the most tense scenes in cinema.
Gripping.
It's like
incredible.
It's Robert De Niro at the height of his career. It's Christopher Walken and bringing this like surprisingly low key performance for him. Even the dude in between them, the guy who is forcing them to play Russian roulette. They're all firing on all cylinders. It's just it's hot.
The slapping,
it's sweaty.
There's laughing.
There's this way of keeping like guns in the frame, which keeps everything sort of like tense and builds up the pressure. It's phenomenal.
Obviously the mental breakdowns downstairs was can hear people being shot upstairs. Like, I was on edge, mate. I was absolutely on edge. That's a good
point. The production design of like how they've laid out that building and how those people are caged and imprisoned, like
the blood falling down through the floorboards. It's insane.
Phenomenal. It's absolutely phenomenal. I think it's the scene that this film really is kind of remembered for good reason. It's also a scene that was quite controversial when it first came out. And
I was just going to say again to say about the mirroring as well. Like, look at the end scene where it's them two again.
So there's the other thing. There's the other piece of iconography is that when we get to the end, we also get this weird like design choice where if someone knows the answer to this, please leave a comment, because why does the guy have one eye blacked out? Because I'm pretty sure if I remember reading something a long time ago about this, that it was just like, it's just a design choice. It's just some flair for the production, but that has gone on to become hugely iconic. The idea of like a Vietnamese dude with one of his glasses blacked out, holding a gun in that sort of like dominant stance. It's such a powerful image.
I love the idea as well where De Niro in the first scene is telling him, do it, you know, this is our chance, do it. And the last scene he said, don't do it again. It's that kind of it's the mirror in the whole film. That's what I love about it. It's fantastic.
Part of the reason this always stands up for me, it's a war epic that focuses more on the impact of war than it does the acts of war.
So a few things to mention. This was John Cazale's last performance. He was actually terminally ill with lung cancer during this film. I think the fact that he managed to do that kind of performance and the physicality of his performance, whilst doing something like that, it's something to be it's commendable as hell. That's amazing. I wish I saw a bit more of him, to be fair, a bit like Dog Day Afternoon, but I can understand more so in this one. And lastly, what I will mention is something that frustrated me a bit, is it's not a very good image of Vietnamese people. It makes out as if, like, obviously, you know, the war, and you've got the Viet Cong, is that what they're called? But then suddenly when you go to like the towns and everything, it just seems like they're all gambling, they're all like interested in violence. And I was like, come on, like Vietnam is supposed to be a lovely place, and I just wish it was portrayed better in these kind of older films. But again, we're moving on from just after the Vietnam War, so people might not have that kind of realization. So it was just a bit of a...
Well, I think that's a criticism that the film had lobbied at it quite quickly.
Really?
The Vietnamese obviously are not happy with how their people are portrayed in the film, and, you know, for good reason. But I think Michael Cimino's had a couple of interviews where he's discussed that idea and its purpose in the film and all that sort of stuff. But yeah. So there is The Deer Hunter. You can let us know in the comments below what you thought of The Deer Hunter, or you can hit Andy and I up on Twitter, as always. We are going to be back once again next week, where we're going to take a look at a recommendation from Cheza or Chexar, however you want to pronounce it. We'll be taking a look at The Children of Men.
Can't wait for this. By the way, Children of Men, not the...
I do apologize. Remove the... Until then, get watching.
Bye-bye.